welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about Splunk Attack Analyzer today. If you attended the previous webinar, we're going to be focusing more on looking into some of the jobs and analysis that Attack Analyzer has completed, just to give a bit more of a varied kind of presentation over some of its capabilities. So yeah, I'm Jake Hammacott. I've been with Somerford for just over 2.5 years now, and I primarily specialize in Splunk with kind of a unique focus on the security stack, but I do dabble with some of our other cybersecurity solutions as well. And I'm going to be taking us over today's agenda and running through it all. So I'm going to start off with a pretty brief introduction to Somerford, and look into some of the kind of workflows of Attack Analyzer before moving on to and looking at the tenant, where I'll start by introducing and kind of showing off the web-based resource uploads, where we can learn how Attack Analyzer receives new resources through the web UI. From there, we'll spend the bulk of our time looking at some of the in-depth analysis that Splunk Attack Analyzer has completed on specific investigations that I've kind of cherry-picked. And then if time permits, we'll have the option to have a little bit of a Q&A session. So yeah, Somerford Associates, who are we? Well, we're an elite partner with Splunk, and we have been since 2010. We house one of the biggest teams of certified consultants in Splunk in EMES, making us one of the largest partners. And that translates into a whole host of skills from things like cloud transitions, specialized consultants in each of kind of like the Splunk core pillars. So security, SOC, ITSI, observability, pretty much all of it, which means that we are very capable at tackling and working with deployments of all sizes in both the public and private sectors. And before I go and start rambling on about some of the workflows of Attack Analyzer, I just want to highlight the fact that we've got a limited time package offering, which is going to be going on until the end of February, where we offer 5 seats, so 5 users with 10 daily submissions, priced at $46,665, with the option of us to work with you and provide professional services in-house to ensure that adoption happens as smoothly as possible, and that you really get that ROI, return on investment. And we do have certified SC and DV cleared consultants if that's necessary. On top of that, we do offer a support desk where we triage and complete and investigate 97% of our tickets without having to escalate to Splunk. So I just want to spend like literally a minute or two recapping how Attack Analyzer works. Kind of behind the scenes is really high level, but just gives you a bit of an idea of what it does. So we start by submitting resources, and a resource is just anything that you upload to Attack Analyzer, either through email, so like through a phishing report button, through the web, which I'll go into more detail in a little bit, or by an API, so typically things like a SOC runbook or playbook. And then once Splunk Attack Analyzer receives that resource, it schedules a job. And a job is just a listing for the investigation and analysis that it performs. Inside that job, engines are going to run specific engine-specific tasks on specific resources, where it's then going to document detections and assign scores. From there, it's going to have a look and see if any new resources have been discovered. So maybe I uploaded an email that I thought was phishing, and inside that email was a link to a website. That's a new resource, so it will go back and run new engine-specific tasks on that new resource, so that website, before again documenting detections, assigning scores, until Attack Analyzer is certain that there is nothing else left in kind of that attack chain or potential attack chain. At that point, the job is complete. So results are documented and normalized, and then an overall score is identified to determine the authenticity of the original resource that was uploaded. So was it malicious? Was it phishing? Was it malware? or was it benign? Was it safe? So I'm going to now move into the Attack Analyzer tenant, which I should have just here. Yeah. And before I start going into some of the jobs, which we can see listed down here, I just want to talk about this web uploading for submissions and how easy it can be. If I wanted to, I could simply drop a file or type in a URL and hit submit, and Attack Analyzer would schedule a job. You'd see it come down here. It would take its time to, investigate fully, and then I'd be able to access all of the findings and detections and have a really good idea of if whatever I've uploaded, my suspected phishing or malware, if in fact it is dangerous, malicious, without ever having to actually go in and analyze it myself. If I want to have a little bit more control, I can use the Advanced tab, which allows me to not only choose specific engines, which is particularly relevant if you're if it's kind of really time critical, where actually I know that this is just a single URL, or it's exclusively URLs, so I can disable some file only engines, or vice versa. I'm uploading a suspected malware and I just want it detonated. I can turn off our URL only engines, just so Attack Analyzer doesn't have to worry about any of that side. On top of that, we've got these optional parameters over here, decoding rewritten URLs, allowing internet access. And then on top of that, you have the option to include any passwords for files that might be password protected or encrypted, so that Attack Analyzer, can immediately access them. However, on top of that, if you have a file, I'm sorry if you can hear the sirens. I live by a relatively busy road. But on top of that, Attack Analyzer actually, if you don't have the password, will attempt to brute force and decrypt documents or executables, files, which we can see in action in one of the jobs that I picked out for today. And then finally, we've got these web analyzer parameters. So this is for our web analysis engine, which will basically simulate, someone accessing whatever URL it is in a contained environment and automate kind of that side of the investigation. It allows you to pick out region, which is particularly important because as we see more sophisticated attacks, attackers, malicious actors will target a specific region or demographic. And as soon as they see that there's someone or something interacting with their attack or payload outside of the designated region, they'll just shut down the attack. They will send it, redirect you to the actual legitimate Microsoft login page, just to try and prevent tools from identifying what's happening. So say if we were based in the USA, I could set it so that my web analyzer exclusively works from the USA. So from the attackers or the payload's point of view, this is a normal user. This is what we expect to see. Similarly, again, with user agent, and these are all out of the box. You can incorporate your own as well. If you use something very specific, like a specific mobile or a specific web browser that isn't already listed, you have the option to incorporate that as well, which just lets you, again, kind of simulate the exact circumstances that your end users, the actual victims or targeted victims, would work or would interact with it, just making it very hard for an attacker to identify and realize that actually, they're not interacting with a real person. They're interacting with a bit of software that's going to completely expose them for what they're doing. And then finally, we've got interactive web and sandbox, which are very similar, but very different at the same time, where even though you can automate all of these processes, there might be some kind of niche scenarios where actually as an analyst, you want to go in and investigate and play around with whatever's been uploaded, whichever resource. So if you've got a URL that, is potentially dodgy, you can chuck that in. Again, select specific regions, specific user agents, and launch a session. Obviously an external session, so it's not on any of your infrastructure. It's not kind of maintained or handled by you. So there's zero risk of that actually affecting and getting onto your system, which is less relevant for web because that's typically going to be around phishing. But for things like an interactive sandbox, which you may have, something similar already in place, but it comes as a part of Attack Analyzer, so it consolidates all of those tools out of the box, Windows 7 and 10, but you can again incorporate your own. If you are Mac OS or Linux based, you can incorporate whatever you use. And that again gives your analysts, or you as an analyst, the ability to go in and have a play yourself, try and trigger things. Attack Analyzer, whilst you're doing that, will still perform detections. It's not just leaving you on your own there. It's still actively going through and detecting anything that's happening whilst you are interacting with it instead of the engines themselves. But anyway, that's just one of the ways that you can get resources into Attack Analyzer. I talked about the other two earlier, with email-based or API-based. And with emails, any customer of Attack Analyzer gets their own dedicated email address that then these resources are forwarded to, which then gets the data into Attack Analyzer. Anyway, I'm now going to move on to our first job, the interesting bit, where Attack Analyzer has taken this weird text from Tony. Someone's emailed in a weird text from Tony, and as an analyst, I can come in and have a look, and I don't even particularly need to scroll down and investigate. If I didn't want to, I could go, this is the score here, the overall score for the resource, 100. 100 is the maximum. And I quite like to think of it as a percentage of how certain Attack Analyzer is that this is malicious or bad or scary. So in this case, as a phish, we can immediately see that someone's trying to get our Microsoft or Office 365 login data. And we can see that from the original resource in this resource chain, this is the original one that we started with. It's gone through and interacted with 4 more on top of that. So 3 URLs and 2 files, all within 56 seconds from it being uploaded. And as an analyst, or in fact, just as an end user, I'm not sure that I could navigate through URLs and download 2 files in 56 seconds. So, I mean, that's just a little bit of a testament of how quick this is. Forensics and data come through in 2 main ways. The main one that you will pretty much exclusively work with, especially if you're just using Attack Analyzer as its own kind of solution, is normalized forensics. This is where Attack Analyzer's got all of your detections, got all of your kind of network information, system, strings, images, and written them in a human readable format. On top of that, it incorporates loads of kind of third-party and external tools or methodologies. So you can see that we've got MITRE attack mappings, which isn't relevant to this one, but will be on the next job. And just to show off the difference, the raw forensics, which I'm not going to go into because you typically use this when integrating with maybe like a third-party SOC, because Attack Analyzer can be really easily baked into those playbooks and those runbooks, just to get that like end-to-end automation. But yeah, the raw forensics is how Attack Analyzer initially builds out all of its findings. But anyway, I'm going to quickly go over what Attack Analyzer did in this case. So we started off with this weird text from Tony, which, as we can see here, our email analyzer is going to screenshot everything it looks at. It's just a forwarded email with an attachment, a PNG, which takes us to this kind of dodgy looking text that someone's kind of sent to a technician, a security team member, which has got, a shortened URL, which, even though this is a PDF, Attack Analyzer is aware of, and, it's given it a score of 25. It's pretty sure that this is a SMS phishing scam before it's even really dug into anything. And I get a lot of people going, okay, it's pretty sure that this is a phishing scam. Why is the score only 25? And it's because that this file, this PDF itself, if as an end user this is all you got, and you that link didn't work, or you never accessed that link. This isn't scary by itself. So a score of 25 is there to go, yeah, this is dodgy, but actually, they're not harvesting our credentials yet. They're not doing anything, naughty as of yet. They might be trying to. And if I wanted to, at any point, you have the option to open up an interactive sandbox, whether that's web or OS, to go and have a play yourself, and really dig in to get that additional context, or to get a really good feel of how at a human level you would interact with this specific resource. So from there, it's picked out this image, which is now its own resource. We've got similar detections. It's the exact same image, but is being handled separately. From there, the link is then accessed, which is a redirect. So nothing scary there. It's using Bitly. Nothing scary at the moment until we reach that final page, where immediately, and it's easiest if I just show you what the web analyzer's seen. We've got this page, and it looks like your standard Office 365 or Microsoft login, which all of our, well, I say all, both of our engines have picked out some particularly scary stuff here. So Web Analyzer is very aware that this is a phishing attempt where they're using Microsoft as kind of like the front, and it's got all of these kind of granular detections which culminate into this larger one, giving it a score of 100. URL reputation brings in, again, loads of third-party resources, so we can see the Google Safe Browse. Really not happy with this. It's social engineering. And then we get those contextual detections as well, which don't add any kind of score, so they don't make it any more malicious necessarily, but are really good to have included for that additional context. So Attack Analyzer, again, has gone through and completed all of this within that, just under a minute. It's completed it and then assigned its final score. And I talked about that earlier, but the way it does that is it takes each of the resources, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It adds up all of the scores from each of the engines for each resource. So this top one's 25, 10, 0, 0, 175. Takes the highest one, which is our landing page at the end here, and assigns that as the overall score for the entire resource. The max is 100. Which again is why I like to think of it as a bit of a percentage. So 175 is being brought down to 100, but Attack Analyzer is 100% certain that this is a phishing attempt, which then gives us that score of 100. All of this is done without any analyst intervention. No kind of human resource is wasted. Going through this, meaning that you as an analyst or your analysts can spend time actually doing the important bits. So remediating this, if we're aware that this is, landed at one of our end users, and actually they've fallen for it, because unfortunately, when you get really sophisticated attacks, people will fall for them. We know exactly what it's done. If we go into kind of like the network side, all the way back here, we can get extra information about who's doing this to us, where are they coming from, URLs, who is results, specific forms within HTML, to have an incredibly rounded idea of exactly what's happened to us. Moving on to my second example for today. I've got this one, which is a little bit different, and you can see it took a little bit longer. It took 8 minutes to complete this one, and I can kind of show you off why. We started with just a zip file that was uploaded, and this one's quite cool because we purposefully did not give Attack Analyzer the password to the zip file, which I can show here once it loads. Again, this is a lot of resources. How many we got? 3 URLs, 6 files in 8 minutes. We can see that there's an archive password here of infected. How did we get that? Oh, it was from a brute force. So Attack Analyzer didn't know what the password was, brute forced it, and continued its investigation from there, again in 8 minutes. If I were to pick this up as an analyst without the tool such as this, I'm going to have to manually use a solution potentially that is going to brute force that before I can even start my investigation. Maybe the password was given to the target or the victim in a different way. Maybe they forgot it, maybe they deleted it. So it's very difficult for us to, it could be very difficult for us to recover that password and actually understand what's happened. So we can move through, it's been decrypted, and we get this email here. And I'm unfortunate enough to only know my primary language, which is English. So I look at this and I am just a bit confused. I can see that there's, lots of caps. I can see some kind of like warning signs, some red flags. There's a link there. I don't know what that's in regards to. I don't really know what this email is about. I can see it's from a Gmail account, which Attack Analyzer picks up on as well. But again, I have a Gmail account. It's not particularly dangerous. It's not particularly suspicious, but it's just something to keep in mind. However, Attack Analyzer is, unlike me, unfazed by any form of language barrier. So moves through and accesses that URL, which takes them to a download. It is then downloaded. We've got some more information on the actual URL here. And again, I can drill down into things like the network, the system, although systems are not going to be particularly relevant here, to get, again, additional contextual information. Before going over, and actually the file we downloaded was tarred, password protected. Each of our engines in Attack Analyzer communicate with each other where necessary. So this password was actually obtained all the way back in our chain here, where we've got this password of 2023. And admittedly, if I was trying to investigate this, maybe that's quite obvious. But that's not always the case. I'm not always going to be able to pick out a password if it's written in a language that I don't understand, which might make me rely on, things like Google Translate, which aren't particularly good practice and not necessarily very reliable. But again, Attack Analyzer is unbothered. It's talked. So this was our archive extractor engine working with our engines all the way back here to pick up this password, pass it through without, an analyst having to go, okay, it's now asking for a password. Let's go back and check the email. Okay, the password's 2023. I can put the password in. Now I can continue. It's automated all of this to then extract and open that file. And yeah, this is where it gets particularly scary. We can see, and I say it all the time, but the detections kind of come up like Christmas lights. We've got a whole wave of all of our engines being really, really upset. 52 detections for this one file. And we can see that there's over a whole host of our engines, static doc analysis. If I wanted to just look at one, I can. So we've got static and dynamic analysis happening on any file that gets incorporated into a job. We can see it's got reversed strings. I can break that down and it will show me the actual value. It's referencing some paste bins, particularly scary. And it also, again, the engine screenshot and document absolutely everything that they do. If I was to pick this up, I've got no idea what's going on in here. I can pick out very particular things. I've got some functions, variables, if statements, but to me that means absolutely nothing. Of course it does. That's the whole point. That's what they're trying to do. And if I go into some of our sandbox environments instead, it should tell us that actually, yeah, they are attempting to hide themselves. So we've got all sorts of obfuscation, sorry, if I can pronounce it correctly. And again, bringing that into normalized forensics is, to be fair, the same as task results a lot of the time, especially if you're looking at specific engines and specific resources. It gives you, again, that granularity in your investigation where you can pick out literally everything that's happened. And that's just because all of these individual engines, which you would likely see as their own solution or part of, their own separate entity, even if they do work in tandem or parallel, they all come together to bring all of these findings kind of under that one roof. And finally, moving on, it even accesses things like the paste bin, which might be incredibly difficult to find if you were to go and access this yourself and attempt to complete this investigation yourself, even with certain tools or dedicated tools. Again, to me, that's a lot of gibberish. We're getting some admittedly quite low scores, things like it being on blacklists, which we can see here from URL void. And the fact that the URL reputation has so many different kind of like threat intelligence feeds just means that regardless of what you're uploading or interacting with, there's going to be something that has a result, providing it is malicious. It's very unlikely that you'll find something that hasn't been investigated or worked on by one of the third-party kind of partners. And finally, it goes to this final download here. You can see all of the different steps it's taken. But yeah, moving back again, I'd just like to highlight how fast this thing is. And if I go into normalized forensics, we can see some of the MITRE attack that's actually being incorporated here. Just giving you, again, that context and that reliability to know that, you've uploaded something that one of your end users is scared of, or, you've got your SOC playbook that's picked up on something, or something's been reported. Okay, we need to send it to Attack Analyzer for analysis, even if it's just a piece of malware. That can all be detonated and analyzed in real time. Finally, we've got artifact downloads. So anything that comes up, any resource that gets discovered can be downloaded. I'm not going to do it because I would hate to put malware on my work Mac and really upset my security team. But you have the option to download resources or view files and interact with them in your own isolated environments if needed. And I talked about it last time, but you always have the option to send feedback on a specific resource or in a specific job if you don't agree with findings, which just allows the dedicated team at Splunk to take that on board and actively improve Attack Analyzer, not only for yourself, but for the wider Attack Analyzer kind of like family. Anyway, I appreciate that was a very quick kind of whistle-stop tour of some of the investigations Attack Analyzer has gone into. I appreciate that we have hit 2:30. I appreciate some people might need to drop off. But if there's any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I believe we can unmute you. Alternatively, if not, I appreciate you all for coming in, listening to me talk about Attack Analyzer for half an hour. Thanks for watching. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to chuck them in now, either in the chat or by raising your hand. If not, feel free to get in contact with us.